Question is, what are some ways that a journalist can channel their emotions when they feel biased or emotional about a particular subject?
I'll go first. I'm pausing. Okay, perfect example. I'm going to use myself last Thursday morning. In the morning meeting, in the editorial meeting, my assignment, we were talking healthcare because obviously that's one of the huge stories for the past several weeks. And they wanted me to go into a rural community to show how doctors and patients in rural areas would be affected by the health care reform bill that has now been passed. Well, okay, I can do that. So, I guess I have an opinion on healthcare, but I really don't know because I'm probably just as confused as everyone else sitting in this room about it because it changes every day. But going into the rural community, I had to go into a community that I knew very well. I knew most of the people in it, and I pretty much knew what side of the fence they sat on. So to get both sides of the story, I really had to think about the person who was for health care and how it was going to help them, and the person who was not for health care. So I did. I found my two patients. Well, found my patients and talked to the doctor, and the doctor actually felt that this health care reform bill would be devastating to senior citizens and the patients that are left in this rural community that I'm talking about. So even though I had one for, one against, and then another one against, but yet he was the only doctor in the town. So I was thinking, okay, this isn't balanced already. What am I going to do to make this balance? So anyway, it took me 2.5 hours to write the story, just to write the story, because I wanted to make sure that I channeled my emotions, my feelings, and at the same time, I got the point across on both sides. I walked into my news director's office. I wouldn't even let one of the producers check it. I was very nervous. And she felt that my story was one-sided, even though I had tried to make sure that both sides were included. So I had to rewrite a whole story, but that just comes to mind to me because that's one of those issues. And I think you just have to tell the story from both sides. You know, if your sister got killed by a drunk driver and you had to do a story about a man who had his 4th DWI and just got off and isn't going to jail, and he killed another girl, you know, that's going to be hard to be unbiased in that situation. But you just kind of have to set yourself aside and just tell the story.
Well, I think one thing that we have to admit to ourselves, we all have biases. When I was in journalism school, you know, we were taught to be objective reporters, okay? And we didn't even acknowledge that we had a bias about anything. And over the years, you know, I've learned to be honest with myself. I have a lot of biases. I'm a very liberal Democrat, okay? And so in the last week, I would have had a difficult time perhaps writing some of the stories on the health care bills. But what you have to do is first recognize that you have those biases and then put them in a box mentally and close that box up and make very, very sure that when you write a story, and this comes under your code of ethics as a journalist, always be fair. And being fair is presenting both sides, all right? So you sort of do like President Bill Clinton was famous for doing. You take different things and you put them in a box and compartmentalize them and close that box and then go on to do whatever it is that you have to do.
A lot of this is easier said than done. So I guess my advice to you would be that education is very important. You know, many of us hold a position, and if we were asked to really explain why or what we know about it, it might be difficult because we come to our viewpoints based on our background, our family, people we associate with, experiences, some of which may be based on good facts or reasons, and some of it may not be. So one of your first jobs going into this profession is to understand your job is to research. Get information, facts, understand, ask questions. You might be surprised, you might change your mind about something or realize that there's not just one side or the other, but there are many facets to a story. But the other thing that I would say to you is that if you find yourself coming to the point that even after all of that, you are so passionate about a position that you simply cannot report on it from the commercial media standpoint, in being a journalist as we would like to think of a journalist being fair and impartial, that sort of thing, then you could in fact find yourself wanting to work for an organization that supports your point of view, and you want to use your great communication skills to further that point of view. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's why we have people in public relations and marketing and that sort of thing. Certainly within the commercial media, you have people who are paid to be opinion writers, columnists, that sort of thing. But I will tell you, that is so much more than just giving an opinion. Well, this is what I feel today, or this is what I think. That is very weak opinion writing and commentary. Any decent opinion writing or commentary is based on facts, an understanding of the other side, and then being able to either concede some points, refute those points, whatever that may be. So I think it's good that you recognize that you have a particular passion, and I hope at your age you all are supposed to be passionate about things. I would hope so, and that you investigate those.
I would tell you that many good reporters on the national scene, particularly political reporters, no one knows their party affiliation. Many of them do not vote at all. Or if they do vote, they don't let anyone know how they vote so that they don't reveal their biases.
We have 3 avenues in the newsroom that you can use to express your own opinion. They encourage us to write blogs. You've got to be careful when you write a blog as an employee of the newspaper, but they want that vehicle used. So, in answer to your question, you can state your passions on a blog, as long as they're not offensive or scandalous in some way. You can also write an editorial. It's been my experience that when I'm asked to write an editorial, I was free to choose the topic, but as the other ladies have pointed out, it has to be well researched. It can't be just, I feel like this because. You've got to have those facts behind you. And the third way is as a columnist. And a lot of people write columns on very specific topics, and their readers become accustomed to them talking about that. Our executive editor, her passion is homeless dogs and cats, and if she writes an editorial, it's going to be astute and the facts are well-founded about that particular situation. So there are niches you can find to express your feelings or your thoughts on a particular subject.